My name is Gracie Thompson, 62 years old, and retired from teaching elementary school for 30 years. The day my only daughter Sophia got married without me there, I inherited $13 million from an uncle I barely knew. The universe has strange timing. For years I gave Sophia everything, yet she excluded me from her most important day. 3 days later, she appeared at my door clutching a yellow envelope, tears streaming down her face. If you want to know what was inside that envelope that nearly made me collapse, please like and subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. This story might change how you think about family forgiveness and second chances. My story begins with 25 wonderful years married to Harold. We met in college, married young, and built what I thought was an unshakable life together. Harold worked in finance while I taught 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary. We saved, bought a modest home in the suburbs, and when I was 36, our beautiful daughter Sophia was born. She was our miracle, after years of trying our perfect girl with curious eyes and a smile that could light up any room. For 15 years, we were the family I had always dreamed of having. Harold coached Sophia's soccer team, I led her Girl Scout troop, and our weekends were filled with board games and movie nights. Every decision we made centered around giving Sophia the stable, loving home I never had, growing up with my distant parents and nomadic uncle. The fracture in our perfect life happened suddenly, though looking back, perhaps the signs were there. Harold started working late, became distant, and grew irritated over small things. Then came the day his 24-year-old secretary called our home by mistake. The pieces fell into place, and my world collapsed. Harold had been having an affair for 6 months. Within weeks, he asked for a divorce, leaving Sophia and me stunned and heartbroken. Sophia was 15 when Harold moved out. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal or loneliness, but watching my teenage daughter process her father's abandonment. Harold quickly married his secretary and started a new life across town, his visits with Sophia becoming less frequent as his new wife became pregnant. Suddenly, I was a single mother with a mortgage half the income and a daughter entering her difficult teen years. I kept my teaching job and took weekend bookkeeping work for local businesses. Even with child support, money was tight. I cut back everywhere except Sophia's college fund. No matter what, my daughter would have the opportunities I never had. Those first few years after the divorce, Sophia and I grew closer. We leaned on each other, figuring out our new normal. I attended every volleyball game, helped with college applications, and stayed up late helping her study. When she was accepted to Northwestern University with a partial scholarship, I was bursting with pride. The remaining tuition came from her college fund and student loans, which I co-signed. I promised myself I would help her pay them off once she graduated. Northwestern changed Sophia. The first semester, she called home 3 times a week. By sophomore year, those calls dwindled to once every 2 weeks. When she came home for holidays, she talked about her sophisticated new friends from wealthy families. She started making subtle comments about our house being quaint and asked why we never traveled internationally like her roommate's family. After graduation, Sophia took a job at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago, 3 hours from our small town. She visited less frequently, always with stories about office politics, promotions, and the exciting city life. I was proud of her success, but noticed she rarely asked about my life, my friends, or the community she grew up in. Then came Logan Barnes. Sophia brought him home after dating for 6 months. Tall, with perfectly styled hair and an expensive watch, Logan worked as an investment banker. He was undeniably charming, complimenting my cooking, while subtly mentioning the Michelin star restaurants he frequented. He asked about my teaching career with what seemed like genuine interest. but I caught the slight smirk when I mentioned my modest pension. Something about Logan bothered me from the start. The way his eyes scanned my living room, assessing its value, the backhanded compliments about how refreshing our simple life was, the constant name-dropping of exclusive clubs and famous acquaintances. But most concerning was how Sophia changed around him, laughing too loudly at his jokes, interrupting herself mid-sentence to seek his approval, checking her phone whenever he texted, despite being in the middle of conversations with me. 6 months into their relationship, I invited them for dinner and noticed Logan steering Sophia away from talking about her childhood. When she mentioned wanting to visit her old high school teacher, Logan smoothly suggested an expensive weekend getaway instead. Later, when Sophia was in the kitchen, I gently asked Logan about his family and his intentions with my daughter. His charming facade momentarily slipped. "My intentions are to give Sophia the life she deserves," he said with a cold smile. "One with opportunities beyond this." His eyes swept dismissively around my living room. When I shared my concerns with Sophia, after they left, her reaction shocked me. "Mom, you're just jealous that I have what you never did," she snapped. "Logan comes from a good family, not a broken one. He knows how to build a secure future." Her words stung like a physical slap. In that moment, I realized how deeply Harold's abandonment had affected her view of our life together. Despite my sacrifices, she saw our years together as lacking something essential that only someone like Logan could provide. Over the next year, Sophia and I grew increasingly distant. She visited less frequently, always with Logan, who dominated conversations with stories about their exclusive social circle. My calls went unanswered for days. My birthday cards received brief text message acknowledgments. For the first time since she was born, Sophia missed my 62nd birthday, sending only a generic flower arrangement, clearly ordered by an assistant. I adjusted to my quiet retirement life. I tended my community garden plot, joined a book club at the library, and volunteered teaching adult literacy classes. My friend Marianne, another divorce teacher, became my rock. We took weekend hiking trips and attended community theater together. I created a fulfilling life, though the Sophia-shaped hole in my heart never quite healed. "She'll come around," Marianne would assure me over coffee. "When kids get caught up in relationships, especially controlling ones, they lose perspective. Just keep the door open." I did keep that door open, sending regular texts, emails, with articles I thought would interest her, and care packages to her office. Some went acknowledged, many didn't. Still, I persisted, believing that the strong-willed girl I raised was still in there underneath Logan's influence. I had no idea how much worse things would get, or that the ultimate rejection was still to come. I learned about Sophia's engagement through Facebook, not from my daughter, but from a mutual friend who commented congratulations on Sophia's post. Seeing the enormous diamond ring in the photo, I felt a complex mix of emotions: happiness that my daughter had found someone she wanted to build a life with, hurt that she hadn't told me personally, and a lingering worry about the man she had chosen. I immediately called Sophia, but the call went to voicemail as usual. I sent a text congratulating her and asking when we could celebrate together. 3 days passed before she responded with a brief, "Thanks, very busy with wedding planning, will call soon." Weeks passed without that promised call. Through social media and mutual acquaintances, I pieced together details about the upcoming wedding. It would be at the Brighton Hotel, the most expensive venue in Chicago. 300 guests, a renowned chef catering. Sophia had chosen a designer dress that cost more than my annual teaching salary. At first, I assumed the formal invitation was delayed or lost in the mail. I checked my mailbox eagerly each day, rehearsing my response, planning what I would wear, wondering if Sophia would ask me to participate in any traditional mother of the bride roles. As other friends in town mentioned receiving save the date cards, my worry deepened. 2 months before the wedding, I ran into Joyce, Sophia's godmother, at the grocery store. "I'm so excited about Sophia's wedding," she gushed. "Tom and I just booked our hotel room. We should coordinate and sit together at the reception." My heart sank as I realized Joyce had received an invitation while I hadn't. "That sounds lovely," I managed to say, hiding my confusion and hurt. The final blow came a week later, when Marianne called me, her voice hesitant. "Gracie, I need to tell you something. My niece works at the Brighton Hotel and saw Sophia's wedding file. You're not on the guest list." The world seemed to stop. "There must be some mistake," I whispered. "There's more," Marianne continued reluctantly. "According to my niece, when the wedding planner asked about the mother of the bride, Sophia said you were too ill to attend." "I'm so sorry, Gracie." Too ill to attend. The lie stunned me more than the exclusion itself. I wasn't sick. I was being erased. That night I couldn't sleep, wrestling with whether to confront Sophia or show up at the wedding uninvited. I imagined different scenarios, causing a scene that Sophia would never forgive, sitting quietly in the back, watching my only child marry, without acknowledging me or respecting her wishes, and staying away despite the knife twisting in my heart. The next morning I called Marianne in tears. What did I do wrong? How could she cut me out of her life like this? Marianne came over immediately, bringing coffee and her steady wisdom. "This isn't about you, Gracie. It's about control. Logan has isolated her from her roots, from everyone who knew her before. That's what controlling people do." "Should I go anyway? It's my daughter's wedding." Marianne took my hands. "What would that accomplish? If you show up uninvited, you'll confirm whatever narrative Logan has created about you. The choice is painful either way, but think about the long game. Your relationship with Sophia beyond this day." After hours of conversation, I made the heartbreaking decision to respect Sophia's wishes, however misguided they might be. If she wanted me absent from her wedding, I would not force my presence. The door to reconciliation would remain open, but I wouldn't break it down. As the wedding day approached, I created a plan to distract myself. I would spend the morning volunteering at the animal shelter, then go hiking in the state park, followed by dinner with Marianne. I would keep busy, keep moving, keep breathing. But when the actual wedding day arrived, a Saturday in June with perfect blue skies, my carefully constructed plan crumbled. I woke up at dawn, my first thought that today, my only child would become someone's wife, and I wouldn't be there to see it. I found myself opening the dusty photo albums I usually avoided, tracing Sophia's life from infancy through high school graduation. Her first steps, lost teeth, soccer trophies, science fair projects I had helped with late into the night, birthday cakes I had carefully decorated to match whatever theme she was obsessed with that year, the prom dress we spent months saving for. 2 decades of memories of a mother-daughter bond I thought unbreakable. Without planning to, I found myself writing a card to Sophia, not about the hurt or exclusion, but about love, about how proud I was of the determined, bright woman she had become, about my wishes for her happiness with or without me in her life. I sealed the envelope, knowing I would probably never send it, but the act itself provided a small measure of peace. At 10 o'clock, the time when Sophia would be getting her hair and makeup done, I forced myself outdoors. I drove to Thompson Ridge Trail, a quiet 5-mile loop where cell service was spotty at best. Nature had always been my sanctuary, and I needed its healing embrace more than ever that day. The June heat pressed down as I hiked, sweat mingling with the tears I finally allowed myself to shed away from curious eyes. Each step felt like an act of acceptance. By mile 3, exhaustion had dulled the sharpest edges of my pain. I had reached the overlook where hikers usually stopped to admire the valley view when my phone, against all odds, managed to connect to a signal. It buzzed with an incoming call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would let unknown numbers go to voicemail, especially when seeking solitude, but something compelled me to answer. "Is this Gracie Thompson?" a formal male voice inquired. "Yes, who's calling?" I replied, instantly alert. "This is Walter Jenkins from Jenkins & Associates law firm. I'm trying to reach you regarding an urgent matter concerning your uncle Franklin Patterson. Do you have a moment to talk?" "My Uncle Franklin," I repeated, momentarily confused. Franklin was my father's younger brother, a perpetual wanderer who appeared in our lives sporadically throughout my childhood. The summers he stayed with us were magical interludes in my otherwise structured upbringing. Franklin would arrive unannounced in his beat-up Volkswagen van, bringing strange souvenirs and wilder stories from his travels. He taught me to fish, to identify constellations, and to value experiences over possessions. Then, just as suddenly, he would disappear again, leaving only postcards from distant locations as proof he existed. The last time I had seen Franklin was at my wedding to Harold 37 years ago. He gave us a handcrafted wooden box containing $1,000 in cash and a note that read, "For your greatest adventure." After that, the postcards stopped. I had assumed he had either settled somewhere remote or perhaps had passed away years ago. "Is everything all right?" I asked. The lawyer, suddenly concerned that Franklin's remains had been discovered somewhere, and I was his only known relative. "Miss Thompson, I understand. This is unexpected. Would you be available to come to our office today? It's rather important that we discuss this matter in person." My mind raced through possibilities. Had Franklin left me some small memento, a final debt to settle? Whatever it was, it offered a welcome distraction from thoughts of Sophia's wedding. "I can be there at 3, I replied, calculating the time needed to hike back to my car and drive to the city. "Excellent. Our office is downtown on Maple Street. I'll text you the exact address." 3 hours later, freshly showered and changed, I sat in the tastefully appointed conference room of Jenkins & Associates. Walter Jenkins was a distinguished man in his 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Miss Thompson." He began setting a thick folder on the table between us. "I regret to inform you that your uncle Franklin Patterson passed away 2 weeks ago in Portland, Oregon." Though I hadn't seen Franklin in decades, the news still brought a wave of sadness. Another connection to my past gone. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. "How did you find me?" "That's the remarkable part," Jenkins smiled. "Franklin was quite meticulous about keeping track of you even if you weren't aware of it. He had an entire file devoted to news clippings about your teaching awards, your address changes, even your daughter's college graduation announcement." I blinked in surprise. I had no idea. He never contacted me. Franklin was unconventional but very intentional, Jenkins explained. "Now, regarding the reason I asked you here today," he opened the folder. "Franklin Patterson named you as the sole beneficiary of his estate." "His estate," I repeated. The Franklin, I remembered, lived out of his van taking odd jobs when money ran low. I don't understand. "Your uncle made some extraordinarily successful investments in the early days of several technology companies. Additionally, he purchased property in what became very desirable areas of Portland and Seattle. He lived simply by choice, not necessity. Jenkins slid a document across the table. My eyes widened as I read the figures. Properties valued at $4 million. Investment portfolios worth $7 million. Liquid assets of $2 million. $13 million in total. There must be some mistake, I whispered. No mistake, Jenkins assured me. Franklin was quite clear. Everything goes to you, his only niece. He left this letter as well. With trembling hands, I opened the sealed envelope and began to read. Dear Gracie, if you're reading this, I've finally taken the one journey I can't return from. Don't waste tears on me. I've lived exactly as I wanted. What you don't know is that I've followed your life from a distance. I saw how you struggled after Harold left, how you worked multiple jobs to keep Sophia in college, how you never complained, even when things were hardest. My wandering taught me to recognize authentic people, and you, my dear niece, are the most authentic person I've ever known. You deserve every penny I'm leaving you, though I know you well enough to predict you're sitting there wondering if this is a practical joke. It isn't. The money is real and it's yours without conditions. I only ask that you use some of it to finally live for yourself. You've spent a lifetime putting others first. It's your turn now. With love and admiration, your Uncle Franklin. P.S. I would have contacted you sooner, but doctors discovered my cancer too late for treatment. I didn't want to burden you with watching another person leave. Tears blurred my vision as I finished reading. Franklin had been watching over me all these years. He had seen my struggles, my sacrifices, my lonely journey as a single mother. And now, on the very day my daughter married without me, he had given me the means to completely reinvent my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years I had scrimped and saved to give Sophia opportunities co-signed. Her student loans helped with her first apartment deposit. I had poured everything into being both mother and father to her. Now, when she had severed our bond, financial security beyond anything I had imagined possible had fallen into my lap. What happens next? I asked Jenkins, still dazed. We'll need to file paperwork, transfer titles, set up accounts. It will take some time to process everything, but you'll have immediate access to some funds. Would you like me to recommend a financial advisor? We spent the next hour discussing practicalities. Jenkins, sensing my overwhelm, was patient and thorough. By the time we finished, the sun was beginning to set. The wedding reception would be in full swing now, I realized with a pang. Driving home, I passed the Brighton Hotel, its elegant facade lit up valets rushing to retrieve cars for guests. Somewhere inside those walls, my daughter was celebrating the beginning of her new life, unaware that my life had transformed just as dramatically today. At home, I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my porch swing watching fireflies emerge in the gathering darkness. $13 million. The amount was almost incomprehensible. I could travel the world, buy a beachfront property, donate to every cause I cared about, and still have more than enough for the rest of my life. Yet, the wealth couldn't fill the Sophia-shaped hole in my heart. No amount of money could buy back what I truly wanted: my daughter's love and presence in my life. What would you do, Franklin? I whispered to the night sky, imagining my eccentric uncle chuckling at my predicament. One thing was certain: I would tell no one about the inheritance until I had time to process it fully, not even Marianne. And especially not Sophia. If she ever came back into my life, I wanted it to be because she missed her mother, not because she discovered her mother was suddenly wealthy. With that decision made, I went inside and began researching financial advisors, determined to handle Franklin's generous gift responsibly. It was the least I could do to honor the uncle who had believed in me even when I didn't know he was watching. The 3 days following the inheritance revelation passed in a blur of meetings. I connected with a financial advisor. Jenkins recommended met with an estate attorney to update my will and began exploring responsible investment options. Throughout these practical discussions, the absence of someone to share this life-changing news with weighed heavily on me. I caught myself reaching for my phone to call Sophia before remembering our estrangement. By Tuesday afternoon, I had established a preliminary plan for the money setting aside funds for retirement security, creating a charitable foundation, focusing on single parents, investing in sustainable businesses, and indulging in a few modest personal dreams like renovating my kitchen and planning a trip to the Maine coastline Franklin had loved. I was reviewing brochures from the financial advisor when my doorbell rang unexpectedly. Opening the door, I found myself face to face with Sophia. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hair disheveled, clutching a yellow envelope so tightly her knuckles were white. She wore jeans and a wrinkled blouse, a stark contrast to the wedding photos I had glimpsed online. "Sophia," I gasped instinctively, stepping back to let her in. She stumbled past me into the living room, collapsing onto the sofa, with a sob that seemed torn from deep within her. For several minutes she couldn't speak, her body shaking with the force of her crying. I sat beside her hesitantly, placing a hand on her back, feeling the sharp edges of her shoulder blades through her thin blouse. When she finally caught her breath, she thrust the yellow envelope toward me. "Look," she whispered hoarsely. "Just look." Inside were photographs printed on glossy paper. They showed Logan with a slender, blonde woman, intimately embracing on what appeared to be a hotel balcony overlooking a tropical beach. In one image, they were kissing. In another, his hand slid beneath her bikini top. The timestamp on the photos showed they were taken 2 days ago, during what should have been Sophia and Logan's honeymoon. "I found these in my email this morning," Sophia managed between hiccuping sobs. "His ex-girlfriend sent them. Said I deserved to know what kind of man I married." The maternal instinct to protect my child, dormant but never extinguished, flared to life. I wanted to gather Sophia in my arms, as I had when she was small, to promise everything would be all right. But the months of rejection and the wedding exclusion created an invisible barrier between us. Instead, I asked quietly, "What happened, Sophia?" The story poured out of her in jagged fragments. The wedding had been a disaster from the start. Logan had been drinking heavily before the ceremony, snapping at the wedding planner, criticizing the flowers, the music, everything. During their first dance, he had whispered that her dress made her look fat. At the reception, he had disappeared for nearly an hour, claiming a work emergency. "He insisted you not be invited," Sophia admitted, fresh tears welling. "He said you were toxic, that you were jealous of our happiness. He said, if I really loved him, I would understand why my past needed to stay in the past." I remained silent, letting her continue. "At first I thought he was trying to protect me. He kept saying you didn't approve of him because of his ambition, that you wanted to keep me small like you." She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "I know that wasn't true now. But he was so convincing, Mom. He isolated me from everyone. My college friends, my coworkers, anyone who questioned him." Sophia described how Logan had gradually taken control of her finances, insisting they merge accounts after their engagement. He had encouraged her to quit her marketing job for a position at his friend's company, where she earned less but had more prestige. He monitored her phone, her social media, her whereabouts. "We maxed out my credit cards for the wedding," she confessed. Logan said appearance was everything that we needed to impress his business associates. He promised his year-end bonus would cover it all, but yesterday I found statements showing he's deeply in debt. The investment banking success was mostly fiction. He has gambling problems, Mom. I thought of the 13 million sitting in newly created accounts with my name on them, a secret padding my future, while my daughter faced financial ruin. The irony was almost too much to bear. "Where is Logan now?" I asked. "Still in Bali. I left as soon as I saw the photos. Told him I needed space. He thinks I'm staying with a college friend." She hesitated, then added in a small voice, "I didn't know where else to go." The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken hurts and fresh revelations. Finally, I made a decision. "You can stay here," I said carefully, "but we need to establish some boundaries. What happened between us this past year, especially the wedding exclusion, that hurt runs deep, Sophia." She nodded, eyes downcast. "I know. I was horrible to you. I believed his lies because they gave me permission to chase what I thought I wanted. I'm so sorry, Mom. I don't expect forgiveness right away." "This isn't about instant forgiveness," I explained. "It's about rebuilding trust. You can stay in your old room while you figure things out, but I need to see real effort from you. Finding a job, seeking therapy, taking responsibility for your finances." "I understand," Sophia whispered. "Thank you for not turning me away. I wouldn't have blamed you if you had." I helped her bring in a hastily packed suitcase from her car, where I noticed her wedding dress crumpled in the back seat. As Sophia settled into her childhood bedroom, I retreated to the kitchen, emotions swirling. Part of me wanted to immediately tell her about the inheritance, to assure her that financial worries, at least, could be eliminated. But caution held me back. What if Logan discovered the money? What if this reconciliation was temporary? Another manipulation I needed to be certain of Sophia's genuine remorse and commitment to rebuilding our relationship before revealing Franklin's gift. That evening, we shared a simple dinner, navigating conversation carefully around the rawness of recent events. Sophia spoke of wanting to file for divorce immediately, of her embarrassment, facing friends, of her fear about mounting debt. I listened, offering support without promising financial rescue. Before going to bed, Sophia paused in the hallway. "The worst part wasn't the cheating," she said softly. "It was realizing I gave up the one person who truly loved me for someone who only pretended to. I don't know if I can ever make that right." "We'll take it one day at a time," I replied, maintaining the delicate balance between compassion and self-protection. "Get some rest. Tomorrow is soon enough to start figuring things out." After Sophia went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, contemplating the twist fate had delivered. My daughter had returned, but on the wings of her own crisis. The inheritance remained my secret, a safety net. I would deploy only when the time was right. For now, watching and waiting seemed the wisest course. I sent a brief text to Marianne. "Sophia is here. Marriage in trouble. Will explain later." Then I tucked away the financial brochures and inheritance documents, hiding them beneath winter sweaters in my dresser drawer. Some revelations would have to wait until trust was restored. The next few weeks established a new rhythm in our household. While Sophia slept in her childhood bedroom, I continued secret meetings with Mr. Jenkins and the financial team, structuring the inheritance into manageable segments, immediate needs, long-term security investments, and philanthropic endeavors. I began exploring the idea of a foundation supporting single mothers, remembering my own struggles and the lack of resources available during my hardest years. At home, Sophia moved through her days like a ghost, alternating between frantic activity and periods of withdrawn silence. She spent hours on the phone with creditors, her voice tight with stress as she negotiated payment plans. She applied for local marketing positions, her resume no longer emphasizing the prestigious Chicago connections that had once seemed so important. I maintained a careful distance, supportive but not overly involved. When Sophia broke down in tears of frustration after receiving another credit card statement, I offered tissues and a listening ear, but no financial bailout. When she scored an interview with a small local agency, I helped her select an outfit, but didn't overpromise about her chances. This calculated restraint was difficult but necessary for both of us to reestablish authentic connection. One evening, passing by Sophia's room, I overheard her tearful phone conversation with a credit card company. "Please, I just need another extension. The divorce isn't final, and I can't access our joint accounts. I promise I'll make a payment next week." The desperation in her voice pierced my heart. I retreated to my bedroom, wrestling with whether to reveal the inheritance now and ease her financial burden. But something held me back. Intuition, perhaps, or the lingering caution of a mother who had been deeply hurt. That restraint proved wise. The following day, while Sophia was at a job interview, I noticed her laptop open on the kitchen table. I wasn't planning to snoop, but a notification flashed on the screen. "Logan Barnes attempted to access your account." Concerned about potential financial manipulation, I checked her recent browser history. What I found sent ice through my veins. Logan had been researching my family months before the wedding. Specific searches for Franklin Patterson, Estate Patterson Tech Investments, and Gracie Thompson Inheritance filled the search history. He had even accessed public records about Franklin's property holdings in Portland. I sat heavily at the kitchen table, the pieces falling into place. Logan hadn't targeted Sophia randomly. He had investigated her family background, discovered her estranged uncle's wealth, and calculated that Sophia might eventually inherit substantial assets. The timing of their relationship, his rush to marriage, his insistence on isolating Sophia from me, all suddenly made terrible sense. When Sophia returned from her interview, I was still at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of me. "Mom," she questioned, setting down her purse. "What are you doing?" Without preamble, I turned the screen toward her. "Logan researched Uncle Franklin's money before he proposed to you. He was after a potential inheritance all along." The color drained from Sophia's face. She dropped into the chair opposite me, scrolling through the damning evidence with trembling fingers. "I never told him about Uncle Franklin," she whispered. "I barely remembered him myself. How did Logan even know to look?" "Your father might have mentioned him," I suggested. "Or Logan could have done a general asset search on your family and discovered Franklin that way." Sophia pressed her hands to her mouth, fresh tears spilling. I was just a means to an end for him. Everything was calculated. Her shoulders began to shake. I gave up everything for him. My job, my friends. She looked up, her face crumpling. "You. I gave up you, Mom." The dam broke. Sophia's composure shattered completely as the full weight of Logan's manipulation crashed down upon her. Between gasping sobs, she revealed darker aspects of their relationship. She had previously hidden his subtle put-downs, his monitoring of her whereabouts, his isolation tactics framed as protection. "He made me believe you were trying to hold me back," she cried. "That your simple life was something to escape, not appreciate. He rewrote my entire history, Mom, made me ashamed of where I came from, of you." Watching my daughter's devastation, I made a decision. It was time for the full truth. "Sophia," I said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been keeping from you since the day of your wedding." I retrieved the inheritance documents from their hiding place and laid them on the table. Sophia's tear-stained face registered confusion, then shock as she read the figures. $13 million, she whispered. Uncle Franklin left you $13 million on my wedding day. Yes, I confirmed. The irony wasn't lost on me. The day you married without me there, I received financial security beyond anything I'd ever imagined. Sophia stared at the documents, then back at me. Why didn't you tell me right away when I came back? Would you have in my position? I asked gently. After months of rejection, after being excluded from your wedding, after discovering Logan had researched family wealth, I needed to be sure you were here because you wanted your mother back, not because you needed financial rescue. Fresh tears welled in Sophia's eyes, but these seemed different somehow. You had every right not to tell me, she acknowledged. I betrayed you in the worst way. And now, knowing why Logan pursued me, I feel so stupid, so used. You were manipulated by someone who made deception his profession, I said, reaching for her hand across the table. That doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human. Are you going to help me? She asked in a small voice. With the debts, I mean. I would understand if you didn't want to. The question hung between us, loaded with unspoken fears and hopes. I considered my response carefully. I'm not going to withhold help as punishment if that's what you're asking, I finally said. That's not who I am, and it's not what family does. But throwing money at problems without addressing their root causes doesn't solve anything. We'll handle the financial issues, yes. But more importantly, we need to repair what broke between us. Relief washed over Sophia's face, followed quickly by determination. I want that more than anything, she said firmly. I miss who I was before Logan. I miss us. For the first time since her return, I moved around the table and embraced my daughter, fully feeling her shoulders shake against mine as we both released months of pain, betrayal, and missed connections. We'll get through this together, I promised. Logan underestimated both of us. He thought money was the most valuable thing in this family. He was wrong. That evening marked a turning point in our reconciliation. With the secrets exposed on both sides, we began to rebuild on a foundation of honesty. Together we decided to take action, not just on Sophia's personal situation, but against Logan's predatory behavior. He'll do this to someone else, Sophia said with newfound resolve. We can't let that happen if we can prevent it. I looked at my daughter with pride, recognizing the strength that had always been there, temporarily buried under Logan's influence, but never truly extinguished. The inheritance had given us resources, but our real power lay in facing this challenge together, mother and daughter united once more. The following Monday, I introduced Sophia to Mr. Jenkins and my financial team. Watching her shake hands confidently with these professionals, I felt a surge of pride. Despite everything she had endured, my daughter's resilience was reasserting itself. We need a two-pronged strategy, Jenkins advised after hearing the complete situation. First, protecting the inheritance and helping Sophia recover financially. Second, addressing Mr. Barnes's fraudulent behavior and potential legal violations. Jenkins recommended Patricia Winters, a divorce attorney known for handling complex cases involving financial deception. Patricia, a formidable woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense demeanor, met with us the next day. You've got a strong case for financial abuse and fraud, she told Sophia after reviewing the evidence. The fact that he researched your family's potential wealth before pursuing you, manipulated you into quitting your job, and isolated you from support systems establishes a clear pattern of calculated behavior. Under Patricia's guidance, Sophia began documenting everything Logan's controlling behaviors, his deception about finances, his gambling issues, and most importantly, his targeted research into Franklin's wealth. We assembled bank statements, credit card records, and communications that painted a damning picture. Meanwhile, Sophia secured a position at a local marketing agency. Though the salary was modest compared to her Chicago job, it offered stability and a fresh start. She threw herself into the work, grateful for the structure and purpose it provided during a tumultuous time. 2 weeks after Sophia's return, Logan reappeared. He showed up unannounced at my front door, immaculately dressed in an expensive suit, holding a bouquet of roses. "Mrs. Thompson," he greeted me with practiced charm. "I'm here to see my wife. We've had a misunderstanding." Before I could respond, Sophia appeared beside me. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Logan. You were cheating on our honeymoon." "Those photos were taken out of context," he insisted smoothly. "Melissa is an old friend who happened to be at the same resort. She was upset about something, and I was comforting her. You rushed to judgment without letting me explain." The confidence in his lie was breathtaking. Even knowing the truth, I could almost believe his earnest expression. Almost. "I think you should leave," I said firmly. "Sophia will communicate with you through her attorney." A flicker of concern crossed Logan's face. "Attorney darling, we don't need lawyers involved in a private matter. This stopped being private when you started lying about your finances." Sophia replied, her voice steady. "Please leave, Logan." As we closed the door, Sophia leaned against it, exhaling slowly. "He's good, isn't he?" For a second, I almost doubted what I saw with my own eyes. "That's how manipulators operate," I told her. "They make you question your own reality." The next day, Logan called Sophia repeatedly. When she finally answered, he adopted a different approach. "I heard about your great-uncle's inheritance," he said without preamble. $13 million, is it? Why didn't you tell me your family had that kind of money?" Sophia looked at me, phone on speaker between us, eyebrows raised in confirmation of our suspicions. Logan hadn't just researched Franklin. He had connections monitoring financial transactions. "How did you find out about that?" Sophia asked carefully. "I have friends in financial circles," Logan replied vaguely. "Listen, this changes things. We can work this out, start fresh. That money could solve all our problems." "You mean your gambling debts?" Sophia suggested. A pause. "I've had some investment setbacks. Nothing serious. But with your family's resources, we could build something amazing together." The naked greed in his voice removed any lingering doubts. With a nod from me, Sophia implemented the plan we had developed with Patricia. "I've been thinking about it too," she said, injecting uncertainty into her voice. "Maybe we should talk in person. I'm not ready to come home yet, but we could meet somewhere neutral." Logan agreed, eagerly suggesting an upscale restaurant for dinner the following evening. After hanging up, Sophia turned to me with grim satisfaction. He took the bait. Now we proceed as planned. The next evening, wearing a recording device provided by Patricia Sophia, met Logan while I waited nearby with the attorney. Over dinner, Sophia skillfully steered the conversation toward Franklin's inheritance, expressing concern about accessing the funds. "My mother controls everything," she complained, playing the role we had rehearsed. "She's being unnecessarily cautious." Logan, believing Sophia was finally revealing her value to him, dropped his mask completely. "Your mother doesn't understand finance like I do. With my connections, we could triple that money within years. You need to persuade her to involve me in the decisions." "But after what happened in Bali," Sophia prompted. That was nothing Logan dismissed. A momentary lapse. "You and I were always the real plan, Sophia. From the moment I researched your family background, I knew we could build something significant together." "You researched me before we met Sophia?" asked, feigning surprise. Logan, caught in his own arrogance, revealed everything. How he had identified Sophia as a potential target after overhearing a colleague mention Franklin Patterson's wealth. How he had engineered their accidental meeting at a Chicago networking event. How isolating her from family, particularly me, had been a calculated strategy to ensure control over any future inheritance. "Your mother was the obstacle," he admitted. Too perceptive for her own good. I could tell she saw through me from the start. By the time dinner ended, Sophia had obtained a complete confession. When Logan suggested they return to their apartment to celebrate their reconciliation, Patricia and I emerged from our nearby table. "Mr. Barnes, Patricia," said crisply. "I'm Patricia Winters, Mrs. Barnes's attorney. This conversation has been recorded with your explicit consent in this public venue. I suggest you prepare for a contentious divorce proceeding." The shock and fury on Logan's face as he realized he'd been outmaneuvered was something I'll never forget. He lunged toward Sophia, but restaurant security intervened before he could reach her. "This isn't over," he threatened, as he was escorted out. "Actually, it is," Patricia replied calmly. "And if you contact Mrs. Barnes directly again, we'll add harassment to the charges we're considering." The following week was a whirlwind of legal activity. Patricia filed for divorce, citing fraud and financial abuse, including the damning recording of Logan's confession. A judge granted a temporary restraining order after Patricia presented evidence of Logan's threatening behavior at the restaurant. With the immediate threat contained, Sophia and I turned our attention to the inheritance. After extensive discussions with financial advisors, we made a decision that honored both Franklin's wishes and our own values. "I want to use most of this money to help others," I told Jenkins. "Specifically, women escaping financial abuse and manipulation." Together, Sophia and I established the New Beginnings Foundation, dedicated to providing resources, education, and support for women rebuilding their lives after abusive relationships. With her marketing expertise, Sophia developed the foundation's branding and outreach programs. I focused on establishing partnerships with existing women's organizations and financial education providers. 3 months after its creation, the foundation helped its first client, Maria, a single mother of 2, whose financially abusive ex-husband had left her with crushing debt and damaged credit. Watching Maria receive the keys to subsidized housing secured through our program, Sophia squeezed my hand. "This is what healing looks like," she whispered, "turning our pain into something meaningful for others." Logan made several attempts to contest the divorce, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. When his gambling debts came to light during discovery, along with previous patterns of targeting wealthy families, his leverage disappeared completely. The divorce was finalized 6 months after the wedding, with Logan receiving nothing except his personal possessions and responsibility for the debts he had accumulated in his name alone. As news of the foundation spread, local media requested interviews. Initially reluctant to share our personal story, we eventually recognized that transparency might help others recognize manipulation tactics before it was too late. Our first television appearance brought an unexpected flood of calls from women in similar situations, expanding the foundation's reach beyond our community. "You were right not to tell me about the inheritance immediately," Sophia acknowledged one evening as we reviewed applications for the foundation's support program. "I needed to find my own strength first." "You always had that strength," I told her. "You just needed to remember it." With the divorce behind us and the foundation thriving, mother and daughter had become partners in a mission neither of us could have imagined on that wedding day, when our separate worlds had crumbled and reformed into something unexpectedly beautiful. 1 year has passed since that June day, when Sophia married without me present, and I inherited $13 million. The universe works in mysterious ways, delivering simultaneous heartbreak and blessing closing doors, while opening windows to possibilities previously unimagined. Sophia now lives in her own apartment 3 miles from my home. It's a modest 2-bedroom with a small balcony where she tends potted herbs, a far cry from the luxury high-rise she shared with Logan in Chicago. Her salary at the local marketing agency covers her basic expenses, while her volunteer work at our foundation fulfills her in ways no prestigious title or corner office ever did. The New Beginnings Foundation has exceeded our wildest expectations. In its first year, we've provided financial literacy education to over 100 women emergency housing assistants, to 37 families escaping financial abuse and business startup grants, to 12 women creating independence through entrepreneurship. Our waiting list grows weekly evidence of both the Foundation's success and the pervasiveness of financial manipulation in relationships. Every Tuesday evening, Sophia comes for dinner. These simple meals at my kitchen table have become sacred time for us, a weekly ritual of reconnection and growth. Sometimes we discuss foundation business, other times we share books we've read or movies we've watched. Occasionally, we simply sit in comfortable silence, appreciating the presence neither of us takes for granted anymore. I never thought losing everything would lead to gaining what really matters, Sophia reflected during a recent dinner. When I look back at the woman I was with, Logan, so focused on appearances and status, I barely recognize her. I understand that feeling intimately. The teacher who scrimped and saved, who defined herself primarily as Sophia's mother, feels equally distant to me now. Franklin's inheritance transformed not just our financial reality, but our sense of purpose and possibility. We've been thoughtful with the money, honoring Franklin's unconventional spirit while exercising responsible stewardship. After funding the foundation with $5 million, I finally renovated. My kitchen took that trip to coastal Maine and established college funds for the children at the women's shelter. The majority remains carefully invested, ensuring long-term security while generating income for ongoing philanthropic work. The most unexpected development has been Sophia's friendship with Maria, our foundation's first client. Despite their different backgrounds, they bonded over shared experiences of manipulation and rebuilding. Maria now works part-time at the foundation office, her accounting skills proving invaluable as our operation grows. I've learned profound lessons throughout this journey. Forgiveness isn't a single moment, but a continuous choice. One I remake daily when memories of wedding exclusion resurface. Wealth, while providing security and opportunity, cannot substitute for authentic connection. And sometimes the people who hurt us most deeply become catalysts for our greatest growth. Sophia has learned her own lessons that true worth isn't measured by address or income, that vulnerability requires more courage than pretense, that rebuilding trust happens through consistent, small actions, not grand gestures. Most importantly, she's learned to trust her instincts. Again, the inner voice Logan had systematically silenced. The strangest part, Sophia told me recently, is that I'm actually grateful for what happened. Not for Logan's deception, but for the clarity it eventually brought. Without that crisis, I might never have rediscovered what truly matters. I understand her sentiment completely. Franklin's inheritance could have divided us further had it arrived under different circumstances. Instead, it became a tool for healing, allowing us to transform personal pain into community support. The yellow envelope containing those devastating honeymoon photos, which once brought Sophia to her knees in my living room, now sits in a drawer. as a reminder of how thoroughly deception can disguise itself as love. Life rarely unfolds as we expect. My modest retirement has become a second career as foundation director. My estranged daughter has become my closest ally. The money intended to let me finally live for myself, as Franklin wrote, has instead created a legacy of service that honors his memory far better than any self-indulgence could have. If you're facing rejection from someone you love, or unexpected abundance, or both simultaneously, as I did remember that time reveals purpose in pain, the most devastating moments can become doorways to unimagined possibilities. Second chances appear in unlikely forms. And sometimes the family we rebuild after fracture proves stronger than what existed before. Have you ever experienced a painful rejection that eventually led to something better, or received unexpected help when you needed it most? Share your story in the comments below, and please subscribe if this journey resonated with you. Your experiences might provide the hope someone else desperately needs today. Thank you for listening to my story, and may your own difficult chapters lead to beautiful new beginnings.